How would you like a really smart watch for cycling? But I'm not talking about smartwatches. Hi, I'm John, and welcome to Cycling on a Shoestring, and I'm really excited about this episode. It's another in my series of interviews here on the channel, and this time we're going to talk about something that's a little bit different. I recently did a video talking about getting off of Strava, and you can watch that. I'll put a link to it in the description below. And how I'm not going to be riding with a smartwatch anymore, and I've done reviews of those right here on this channel. This time we're going to talk about more traditional watches that are great for you if you're going out on your bike. And I'd like to welcome Marc from longislandwatch.com to Cycling on a Shoestring. Marc, it's really great to have you here. Thanks so much for doing this.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And I was saying just before we started the video, I feel like I know you because you're a real big YouTuber. You're very well known when it comes to the watch community. I guess we could call it that.
Right.
But you've got an interesting background. Just before we get into talking about watches, you used to work on, am I correct, like fighter jets and things like that before you got into selling watches online?
Yeah, my original, I guess my career, my classical training is in engineering. I've got a bachelor's and a master's in mechanical engineering, New York State professional engineer as well. And then I worked in the defense industry for almost 15 years. While about halfway through or so, I started this business. Then eventually left the engineering gig full time to do the watches.
Right. Well, it's interesting. I should have asked you right off the top. What watches are you wearing right now? And Marc's one of those guys who likes to wear two. Maybe I could get a watch check on.
I am wearing two. So I'm wearing. This was just released this week or last week, third. So the third, Friday. This is a Marathon Arctic Jumbo Day Date.
Yep, seen that one. Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
very nice.
It's
it's a big one.
I'm not a big wristed guy. It's tremendous, but I do love it. And then my Squale 1521 Blue Ocean.
Well, I wanted to know that because right now I'm wearing one of your watches right here.
Oh, nice.
And this is your Mitchell Field watch. It's the ISL 83, I think, on your website.
It sure is.
Yeah, it comes with a really nice strap, but this thing, as they call it in the watch world, is a strap monster. I've got a NATO strap on there, and it looks fantastic. I love this thing. And
it looks great.
Yeah, it glows like a million suns. So, and I'll maybe put a screenshot up, and people can see what it looks like if you're in the dark.
You matched it up nicely with the strap.
Yeah, because the second hand is orange on it, and I've got the orange in the middle there. It's terrific, and I love it. Oh, by the way, my wife bought me this one. This is your ISL 19. She got this for my birthday. So,
very nice.
Yeah, this is what they call a Pepsi, blue and red bezel on there. So, obviously, if you worked on jet fighters and you're an engineer, was that the thing that kind of got you interested in watches? Because generally, if you're wearing a watch, you've kind of got a little machine. A very intricate machine on your wrist, right?
While that is true, I guess I've just been always engineering curious by nature, but it pretty much probably stems from my father. My father now was not a big lover of watches, but he had a decent collection, and that kind of kicked me off and got me started.
Well, I recently did a video saying that I wore one of these for a long time, a smartwatch. And just before Christmas, I pulled out my old watch. My mom and dad bought it for me about 30 years ago, put a battery in it, started wearing it. And I haven't charged this thing in about 3 months. I'm hooked on watches, and I can blame you and a lot of other people who review watches online for this.
Excellent.
So when it comes to these little machines, I think maybe if we're going to talk about watches for people who are riding bicycles, maybe we could talk a little bit about what it is that powers these. I know there's a couple of different things. For instance, this one is an automatic watch. It's more mechanical, and there are other types of watches. So what else are we looking at here, and what should we be looking for if we're going out to buy a watch?
So in general, watches will usually fall under two categories. Of course, there's outliers, as there is with anything. But they're either mechanical / automatic, which means there's no battery inside, or they're quartz, which generally means there's either a battery inside or a solar cell or some kind of kinetic module, and it's being powered by some kind of electrical signal, if you will. So like, you're wearing both watches that you showed, the 19 and the 83. those are both automatic. So inside is a little spring. It's a coiled up spring, and the spring gets wound by a little eccentric weight in the back. So a little rotor. It winds it up, and then for about 40 hours or so, you don't have to wear it, and the spring slowly unwinds and it powers the watch.
Gotcha. I actually captured some video of this, and I'll put it up on screen. Just as you were saying that. But when it comes to the most robust watches that are ones that will, I guess, withstand more abuse, are we looking at quartz watches in those situations?
Generally, most, it's funny you should say that, because I just did a video. And it was one of my last watch and learns. And I hooked up with a guy he was in Utah.
He was from Colorado, was he? Was he not in Colorado?
No, he was from Utah.
Okay, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
He was from somewhere around Ogden or something. And we just got to talking, earlier last year. And he was a very outdoorsy kind of guy. So he motorbiked and did a whole bunch of other stuff. And we slapped an automatic onto his wrist. Right. And he wore it through all of his trials and tribulations, kept a log of it. And like I said, most people would consider that quartz would be a little more rugged. And that's definitely true. But the automatic held itself just fine. And the reason why people think that, quartz is a little more robust is because there's much less moving parts.
Right.
That little thing on your wrist has, I don't know, 70, 80, 90, 100 little parts, 60 of them move, and they all have to do this careful ballet. And if the watch gets jolted and two pieces hit that shouldn't, then a lot of times the kind of there goes the watch kind of thing. Whereas quartz doesn't really have that. Quartz is powered by a stepper motor. There's only a couple of gears. There's not much in the way. Friction isn't as big as concern as it is in mechanical. So most people will say that quartz is more robust, though not necessarily true, unless you talk about a G-Shock, something without hands on it.
Well, maybe we'll talk about G-Shock in a second, because we'll maybe point out some watches that people can buy if they're interested in going out on their bikes. I remember when I was buying this, by the way, if you contact Long Island Watch, you want to get some answers, Marc will be the guy who'll get back to you very quickly.
A lot of times,
yeah. I asked you about this watch and asked you if it'd be okay for bike riding. Do you remember what you answered when I said that?
I probably said yes. And I said it's probably something wise, like as long as, I don't know.
As long as you're not using a jackhammer.
Jackhammer. Because, a lot of times people say, can I golf with an automatic watch? And I'll say, well, as long as you're not chunking the lawn, then it's fine. If you're going to have sweet spot hits, and even if you shank it, it doesn't matter. But if you're going to be banging the club into the ground, that's a different story.
So when it comes to watches, what are good watches to buy if you want to go out there? And, people call them beater watches you can go out and abuse a little bit. Something for bike riding. I'm going down a mountain at over 80K an hour, or I'm mountain biking. What's a good watch that you would suggest?
You're going to go to your usual suspects, like a Casio, I'm going to say it again, like a G-Shock. Right. It could be a Timex, like an Ironman, or if you want something a little more smart, I guess, a Sunto. Those are very kind of sportsy watches, outdoorsy watches, and they offer, it depends what kind of functionality you want. If you're a biker, do you want to record? If you want to record anything or keep track of anything, then mechanical watches are pretty much out the window. Right. Unless it's going to be Fitbit on one and watch on the other.
Yeah. Are you somebody who just kind of shies away from like smart watches? Although I think you're a runner, so I think you use one. Yeah.
I use one running watch, but I don't even think it classifies as a smart watch. It's got GPS in it. And that's it. And to connect it to my computer, it doesn't even have Bluetooth. I have to physically, punch a cable onto it.
Right.
And that's just habit at this point. I carry my phone with me everywhere, even running. So my phone's recording my runs anyway. But I think the watch thing is just habit.
That's right. And, I was thinking of a brand that I actually have one. My wife bought me another one. My wife's great. She's buying me all these watches lately. Nice. You actually sell this brand at your site, and it's a Bertucci watch.
Yep. Absolutely.
This one, and my channel is called Cycling on a Shoestring, meaning sort of on a shoestring budget. We don't want to have to spend a lot of money. Sure. They're known for making titanium watches, but this one is what's called polycarbonate,
Yeah.
It's not plastic; it's very tough. But
Right.
this thing, you can buy one of these on your site, I think, for about $65. So this
They
isn't an
start at like
expensive watch.
65, $70. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're extremely inexpensive and they're virtually unbreakable.
Yeah, they're terrific. So if you're looking to buy a watch, something like this, I'm going to be wearing this when I'm riding my bike all summer long too. Because
Yeah.
and again, if you were to break it, you're only at about $65, right?
Yeah. They just came out with a watch literally this week that we just got called the Construction King. And
Mm.
it's literally what it is. It is a watch for someone that basically works with their hands constantly. And it's meant to get the crap beaten out of it. It's pretty impressive.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And I'm not too concerned about this one. I mean, here in Canada,
Right.
a little bit more expensive, and I love it. It's a really great watch. It
Right.
works. It's a quartz watch, but it keeps a really good time. Very pleased with the watch. Now, when it comes to tough watches, you don't really need to spend a lot of money. And that's something I've learned. I've been kind of following watches for about 4 months now. And I've learned by watching people all around the world, the amount you spend isn't really all that important as long as you're happy with the watch, correct?
Right. That's absolutely correct. Like I said before, like Timex Ironman. I mean, I think they can be had for like $30 now.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had this watch. This is a Timex. This is an Expedition. It's known as a field watch, basically. It's got the date on it. But other than that, I think when I paid for this, I probably bought this 20 years ago, and I think it cost me about $20. And it's a fantastic watch. Yeah. And it's got what they call Indiglow on there, which glows when you push the button. Cool. So it's a real nice watch to have in my little collection here that seems to be growing by the week. I got another one coming on the way.
That'll happen.
Yeah. So yeah. And again, it's one of those things. Is there anything you can suggest to people when it comes to looking for watches, or maybe if they want to get into watch collecting, maybe some tips you've got? Because I mean, there's a song that we know here in Canada by a guy named Dave Wilcox. It's called "My Eyes Keep Me in Trouble." My eyes keep me in trouble. I want every watch I see. He was talking about women in the song.
Right. Sure. Same thing, I guess, in this case.
Yeah. Is there any tips for people when it comes to looking for watches, or what they should do, what they should avoid really when it's watch collecting?
I would say, well, avoid hype. Avoid hype. Buy what you want, not what people say you want. Like, I mean, this is a perfect example. Forget how much the watch costs, because it's pricey, but it's big. It's 46 millimeter. And I am a 6.5 to 6.75 inch wrist. And I've had people tell me that watch is tremendous on you. That's okay. I don't care. I like it. So, and as far as collecting, set a budget, try not to exceed it. Don't borrow money.
Yeah.
Don't buy what you can't afford to lose. I'm kind of in that camp. It's funny, coming as a vendor, I always tell people, try to save some money, because there are people that will spend their last penny on a watch, and it's not the most important thing in the world. And you have the rest of your life to kind of build up the collection.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're looking at, people immediately, I think one of the first things people think about when it comes to watches, they think Rolex, and Rolex. Yeah. You get pretty pricey, and you can buy a pretty nice used car for the amount of a Rolex, right?
You sure can. And also, something that happens, if you enter the market at that really high point, or mid to upper, really, Rolex, you won't appreciate the less expensive stuff. You want to understand what it is. So if you start small and just gradually build your way up, you can see what spending another $50, $100, $1,000 gets you in terms of fit and finish. Whereas if you start at the top, you'll never appreciate a Seiko.
Right.
You just won't get it.
Speaking of Seiko, and it was something I'd written down because I wanted to talk to you about that. Seiko is one of the biggest watch companies in the world. They make incredible watches at really reasonable prices. And can you get into Seikos, because you find them everywhere? If you go into your local department store, you're probably going to find a Seiko. My cat wants to join me here. We'll get him.
Hello.
That's okay. This is Blue.
Nice to meet you.
You sell Seiko watches as well, and they've got some terrific entry level, even automatic watches for people.
Yes.
If they're looking to get into them. Is there any particular models, or I know they have SNKs and SRPGs and things like this. Is there any particular?
A lot of that stuff, a lot of the SNKs, if you can still find them, they are probably the best entry level automatic watch. People will consider them the gateway drug or the entry drug.
Yeah.
But they are discontinued. I mean, in namesake, the movement that powers it is discontinued. You kind of still can find them every so often. They still pop up. but the 7S26, which is the movement that powered it, it's gone. They don't make it anymore. I have heard, I definitely more than heard, I've seen that there's a replacement coming out for it.
Okay.
Finally, after all these years of hand winds and hacks. But as far as entry level, I mean, any of the Seiko 5 series, definitely a good way to start. They make great sports watches, a couple $100, automatics, hand wind, hack, 42 millimeter cases. They even now make some smaller field watches. Excellent loom, great reliability. They just, they do a really good job. I love selling them.
Can you go wrong if you're looking at, the names that we know? We know Seiko, we know Citizen, we know Casio, we know Timex. They've been around. Some of these companies have been around for over 100 years. You really can't go wrong.
Correct. Absolutely not.
Okay.
I mean, most Citizen would be the king. Citizen is pretty much the largest watchmaker in the world.
Right.
They outsell Seiko by a decent margin. A lot of Citizens newer, most of their push now is definitely towards the Echo Drive or Eco Drive, their Quartz stuff. But yeah, you can't go wrong with any of them. But just because a brand doesn't have history doesn't mean it's not good, because every brand had to start out from somewhere.
Right.
And,
right. And a lot of
I'm
new
talking
companies
about my own
out.
brand in the back of my brain, but just, everybody started from zero. So just because a brand doesn't have history doesn't mean it won't have history in 50 years.
Yeah, and I have a Citizen as well. It's an Eco Drive, meaning it runs on light. So right now it's gaining energy and actually has one of your bracelets on there. So
okay, cool.
Yeah, so there you go. And it really makes it look nice.
Yeah, it does.
One question I asked my wife, she watches your videos along with me, and she had a question for you. Why are so many watches just geared towards men? I watch some women who do reviews online, but most watches are, too large for my wife.
Yeah, I would say, well, first of all, that most automatics, mechanicals, which is kind of what I deal with mostly, and that's what the Swiss watch industry is most known for, I would say, is really more geared towards the male population. Because I would say for the female population, it's more of a grab and go kind of scenario, or also a fashion scenario. Although I see this more with men now, more and more, but definitely not as much as women. My wife has a ton of watches, and it's going to be what matches what I'm wearing that day. Now, I know some guys do that. They match the strap to the belt or the shoes or whatever. Right. But, the whole automatic mechanical thing geared more towards men. So a lot of higher horology is really, again, just geared more towards men, whereas women's watches are generally thrown in the same pile as fashion.
Right.
Inexpensive Quartz watches.
I can imagine it's kind of hard to shrink down a movement to these microscopic levels, or really tiny, in order to get an automatic.
Seiko's got, we sell a Seiko automatic for women. I believe it's 28 millimeter. It's SRE00, and then whatever number you want to put at the end, 135, whatever. And it's basically their 4R36 movement. It's just really small. So they've done it. Okay. They can do it. I just don't think that the selling market is there.
Gotcha. And it's interesting because originally, from what I've learned, horology, by the way, is sort of the study of time. I've learned over time watching you and other people online that women were the ones who wore wristwatches at first, from what I understand.
Yeah, absolutely. But now it's I won't say it's a male dominated world, but it kind of is. It's just my what's the word? my demographic.
Yes.
My demographic is about 95.5.
Okay.
At a minimum.
I know that Bertucci does make watches for women. So if you're interested, they make titanium watches, which is great for my wife. I was thinking about getting her one because she's basically has an effect from nickel that's in stainless steel. She can't wear them.
Yeah, so is my wife. My wife's the same way.
Yeah, she's got a titanium watch, another one that we just bought for her the other day. Well, Marc, this has been a real pleasure to talk to you. I could talk to you all night about watches. I've got a real addiction to watches now, unfortunately. I gotta slow down. And again, you and a lot of other people and reviews I've watched online have kind of got me addicted to them. I do want to say that you make great watches, and this is your own brand, but you sell many different brands at your website. The customer service is second to none. I paid obviously exchange rate on this to bring it to Canada, but if you're in Canada and you want to buy something from Marc at longislandwatch.com, I didn't incur any other duties or anything on this watch. I didn't pay anything extra, which was great. I mean, sometimes they tack on extra money at
That's
the border.
that's kind of the luck of the draw.
Yeah, and sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So I can't guarantee that won't happen to you, but I bought a bracelet and 2 watches, no duties or anything coming across the border. And I'll tell you, the value for a watch like this Mitchell Field watch,
looks good.
Love it. I absolutely love it. And I appreciate your company for what you guys do. And check out your YouTube channel, Long Island Watch. You're on Instagram as well. More and more people following you on Instagram. I get constant pictures of watches and stuff that you've got coming out and things that you've got at your website. Thanks so much. Thank
you. I appreciate it.
If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel as well. I'll see you next time on Cycling on a Shoestring.